What's going on, everybody? How's it going? My name is Ryan Cook, and welcome to the first video, part one of how to chainsaw carve for beginners. So, we are going to start with a new section of videos that are going to go part by part on how to carve to where we get to doing tarantulas like that, or turtles down here. Let's see, turtles down there, water things, you name it. You can do anything when you start carving wood. So welcome to my shop. If you've never been here, I'm Ryan Cook. I'm from Saw Valley Carvings, Ryan Cook Carving on YouTube, and a couple TV shows, Cut Above, Saw Dogs, Carver Kings, Timber Kings, you name it. Welcome to my shop. So this is a fully functioning woodworking shop that I use, and today I am going to talk about the basics of how to carve. Now, I'm just going to film this in one kind of take, and then we're going to go from there. There we go. Let's see. Oh, come on. There. Come on, gimbal. You can work better. There we go. So, what we're going to talk about today is the beginning of chainsaw carving. So if you've never carved before in your life and you want to start carving, this is going to be the video series for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the absolute beginning to way down the videos where you can start to do all kinds of stuff. So right now you can see we got some trees lined up. Now, when you're first starting out carving, you're going to get a saw. So I'm going to go here, grab a saw, and then I'm going to show you the differences between the two saws. So here is one, and then here is another. Perfect. So if you've never started to carve before and you want to get a chainsaw, I am an Echo carver. I only use Echo chainsaws. Yes, if you're new to chainsaw carving, or if you're a faller or you're an arborist, there's Husky, there's a million different saws. Well, there's not a million different saws, but Echo's my choice. Echo's my team. Echo's what I represent. So I'm going to talk to you about how to get started with Echo chainsaws, but you can use any chainsaws because I'll talk CCs also, which is the motor size and how much power each one's going to have. So if you're just getting started and you go and buy yourself, let's say like the 361 or the CS 310, which is a cheap stock saw that Echo makes. This is the pro version of that, but it comes with a regular bar. Now, a regular bar has a sprocket. This is the sprocket right here. That means there's going to be kickback, right? So when you're carving and you're just getting started, you want to, and if you can, to get a saw and then get it over to a carving bar. And a carving bar, this is a Canon 12-inch dime tip bar. There is no sprocket. It's just metal. That means there's no kickback. And that it's pretty true to form. You're not going to get kickback on a carving bar. And that's something that I think will really take away a little bit of the fear of getting started. So what are you going to need when you get started? Number one, you're going to need a chainsaw. What saw is going to work best for you? So that's a good question. Now, for me, I think it needs to be enough power, especially if you have one saw and you're just getting started. You're only going to have one saw, let's say. Maybe, as time goes on, you're going to get a lot of saws, and that's just the way it is. I have too many to count, I'm not going to lie. I have bars all different sizes. As we progress more, we'll go into bars. As we progress more, we'll go into chains. As we progress more, we'll go into blocking. We'll go into the things you need. But for right now, let's just start with the basics. And it's the chainsaw and the safety gear to go with. I've personally always having earbuds. I have ISO tunes for the soundproofing, or I have my Fanner earmuffs. I have Fanner eyeglasses, and you can get any protection that works best for you. Make sure you get some chaps. Chaps are always good. If you're just getting started, always put on your chaps. Your safety gear is going to be the thing that stops you from getting hurt, and that's what is the biggest fear of chainsaw carving. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, it's this. There is, of course, elements of danger. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. and knock on wood, I've never been bit by the chain, luckily. And I've been hurt more with the power tools. So, and we'll get into power tools. We're going to get into power tools kind of at the end, of this video. We're just going to kind of talk about right now the saws. So, the saw that I think would be a great starter saw would be like what could be the 361, which is this saw right here. Doesn't have a chain brake. I take mine off. Echo doesn't recommend that. This is chain brake. So, this is the 2511. This is the lightest saw that comes. This is the lightest gas power saw in the world right now. It is very light. It has 25 cc's, which is quite good. It can run the 12-inch bar fairly good, but I use this saw primarily for detail. It's great for if your backyard, using it in the backyard, you're limbing, you're doing different kinds of things. What saw I would recommend for the first time user is now you can get this one, which is a perfect example. This is the CS490. It's a 49cc saw. It's not a pro version saw. It's not the pro model. The pro model is the 501P. It will come stock without the sprocket, without the carving bar. So a Canon carving bar, which I recommend you get. I think Canon makes the best bars. And if you're just getting started, this would be the setup to get, which would be a 12-inch Canon dime tip bar. You can go to sawvalley.com. I've got a lot of them. You can buy them there. I'll ship them all over Canada and America. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to get a rim sprocket, which is a 250 or a quarter pitch rim sprocket. You're going to get that at your local saw shop. Oregon makes them. They're becoming a little harder to find, but they are still you can still find them. The rim sprockets are out there. The 2511 sprocket is really tricky to find, so just keep that in mind if you want like a lighter saw and you're going for that. You see, you want that starter saw. A lot of people message me. They've just bought the MS-17, which is a still. That is another trickier saw to convert. But not super tricky. Still actually has the sprockets for them. So let's get back to this saw. This is a great beginner saw. It has the power to block out. So that's going to be one of the first things you're going to do in chainsaw carving is blocking, right? We're going to take a piece of wood, whether it's a round log or a slab like you see in the back. You're going to take the wood. You're going to draw on it, maybe cut it flat, cut a little flat section so you can draw on it, or, clean it up so you can get a good drawing. And then you're going to start the blocking process. So the one thing I think with this saw is that this saw is good for blocking, and it's good for detail, and it's also good for pretty much everything you want to do up to 12 inches. If it's a big honking log you're going to take a long time to cut out all the little chunks that you're going to need. You're going to need a bigger saw. But when you're first getting started, that's the thing you're going to want to think about. What am I going to carve for the first time? What's going to be the thing? A lot of times people want to start with bears. They want to start with, whatever. In this day and age, honestly, there's so many videos and so much content. You can start with whatever works for you. I recommend maybe try with a mushroom. Maybe start with one of these trees. There's videos on how to do trees. You can watch them cut for cut. There's videos on how to do bears. You can watch those cut for cut on my page if you would like that. But I always think that something that's going to be versatile, something that's going to be functional, that you can kind of do everything with, is going to be good. If you're stronger, the 501P is a good saw. It does get heavy. These smaller saws are great. They're very light, you can hold it out there. It is a very light saw, but at that same time, it doesn't have the chain speed. And what I mean by chain speed is how fast this travels around the bar and the sprocket. Because it's 25 cc's, that's 49 cc's. That's a big difference in power. So you have to figure out what's going to work for you when you're just getting started. Now, my advice, something like this, something that can do it all. And then you can start to begin to, make sure you got the proper safety gear like we talked about. You've got the saw. You're going to need to change the sprocket to a quarter pitch chain. So if you need to write that down, it's a quarter pitch sprocket, and then you're going to have to get a quarter pitch chain. And I think that the best starter bar is a 12-inch dime tip, a Canon 12-inch dime tip. You can go to sawvalley.com on my website. You can buy them there. I really think that is my favorite bar to start with. That's what I would recommend. And the reason I recommend it is it's the balance. It's not too far out, as in from here to here. It's not too far out. When you get the 14, it's a little more. When you get the 16, it's a lot more. And it kind of is a different weight. And it's a different way when you're using the saw. Like there's not that much. It's a little less control. That's the best way I would describe it. So you keep thinking, okay, now we've got the tools, we've got the saw set up. You come back to the video and you're like, okay, Ryan, what's next? What's next is, what tools are we going to use? So let's move into the tools. Now, you're going to want to carve. Then you're going to want to get a blowtorch, which you can pick up. Like any old blowtorch will work. One of these, like little cheapo ones that just kind of just will burn it, or you can get the more industrial ones, tiger torches. Listen, the tools are endless. I have tiger torches that are always around the shop. These things are, great for burning and no, I'm not going to do that right now just to do it. They're great for burning. They're great for, scoring the wood. So like that, as we progress and I start doing the next video, when we actually get into carving, I will then kind of, we'll go through the process. We'll go through what blocking is. We'll go through then what detailing is. But the tools, right? A lot of people are going to want to get them Dremels. You want to go to sabertooth.com. You want to get some sabertooth burrs, some sabertooth bits. You want to get angle grinders for sanding. You can use palm sanders. I used to use them back in the day. I don't really use them anymore. I mostly use my angle grinders with like a nice sanding disc, or you can use finger sanders. We'll go through all the tools as we progress more. I'll go into detail with how they work, what the best little tricks and tips that you can do for using these tools. And I'm going to really kick up the Tool Talk Tuesdays. But this is mostly for those who have never picked up a saw. And number one, welcome. Like, that's the thing. It's a really awesome hobby. It can be a great full-time job. It can be anything. It can be a way to let go of some frustration. It can be a way to like find some creativity. You want to make something for your mom or your dad or your uncle or your brother or your cousin, your sister, your mother. You can do whatever you want. And all the different woods are ways to do it. If you don't have like cedar or pine or, big wood around you, go to the hardware store. Those are just 6x6s back there. 6x6x18 makes perfect bears. These are just 4x6s. Oh, these ones are a little big. These are 4x12s. So I actually use cedar timber. I just calculate the cost of the wood to what I will sell these for. We'll get into that later. But it's about having fun and learning and trying and not being afraid to fail, because that's the one thing at first that happens, and it does. And I can't even stress enough, like, you're going to fail. You're going to create some firewood, and that's okay. You just get back up, you try it again, you have fun, and you keep learning, And once you get through the first carving and you've maybe you've made a tree and it's chainsaw only, you're going to start to think, okay, what do I need? Do I need a flap sander, which is one of these bad boys? I don't think it's plugged in, but this flaps things off. It spins on here. I'll have them on my website actually quite soon. But or you can start going into like the all kinds of like really niche tools like ArborTech tools. If you want to make bowls, you can get an angle grinder and put the ball gouge on here. This is ArborTech's most famous tool. So if you're coming from like a background of making bowls and you want to get into power tools, this is a really cool tool. And then, these are just the tools that I'm not even planning this. These are just the tools that are on my desk here at just any given time. So here is one of my favorite burrs. Oh, power went out. I guess I'm out of gas. So this is that's one of my favorite burrs. That's pretty funny. Power's out. But that's okay. That's what makes these videos great. As you can see, much more technical. You can see all the little wood chips in there, and we're fixing the cracks. That'll be something. There's videos already about that. So first things first, let's wrap it up. Let's just get you going. Let's get you the right saw. Get yourself the right saw. Make sure you can afford it. Make sure it's the right saw that is going to work for you. I think a 50cc saw, anything from like 25 to 50 is a good starter saw for just doing little stuff. If you already have a bunch of saws and you're now going, okay, I want to start to make stuff. Okay, convert your saw, get yourself a Canon 12-inch dime tip. If you've got a 12-inch dime tip and you're already kind of comfortable, you got everything set up, then make sure you got safety gear, make sure you're ready, plan out your carving, and then just start cutting. And we are going to get into the how-tos, how to use the tools, how to start the saws. We can go over starting the saws right now just to do it, because why not? We're talking about saws right now. So with echoes, you're going to start this saw. You're going to flick the on switch here. This is going to be your choke. Just in case you don't know, pull your choke. If there's a compression button, these ones have it. There's one right here. You can push that down. That's going to take the compression off the piston. It's going to make it easier for you to pull over. And then I like to have my saw and drop it. In Europe, you're actually meant to like step on this thing down here and pull up. I'm not into that. I don't even know if there's gas in here. So I'll just get it. Oh, maybe I need to turn it on. I probably flooded it. Yeah, I did. Okay. So that's actually a good little tip. Here's your first trick tip of how to carve. And this is a perfect example of what can happen when you don't quite know and you're starting your saws and maybe you had your off switch on, just like I did. This happens all the time. So I turned my off switch off, and then I pulled the choke and I started to do it and I flooded the carb. So when that happens and it's just you're pulling, nothing's happening, a great trick, and make sure it's not too big of a saw, because this does work on all size saws, especially echoes. I can do it. I've done it 1,000 times, and I've been able to start saws for people who have been reefing on them for a long time. I know these saws quite well. What I do is I hold down the trigger and I pull, and I will pull until it starts to fire, which it will do, because it will start to push out all of the gas, and then boom, it'll throw out a big pile of smoke, and then also it will it will kick over, and that happens, and it happens to all of us, like you just saw. Like, so a great little tip for when you're getting your chainsaw going is choke, start, let it warm up, give it a little time to idle, and then get yourself ready. Now, when you first start carving, I look at the saw kind of like my pencil, right? This is our pencil. Get to know your chain sides, your tip, what it's doing. If you're using a stock saw, just remember, anything from here to here, if it's cutting here and here, it's going to jump on you. It's going to kick. That'll be a kickback. That's the part when your saw goes woof, and you get a wake-up call. I've had very close calls, never gotten bitten, knock on wood. But get to know your saw. You know, maybe your first one, you're like, oh, I'm all fired up. I want to rip into a bear. I want to rip into this. Why don't you just grab like a chunk of wood and start cutting? Like, try to do some swaying lines. Try to like feel what it's like when you're cutting on this side of the tooth or on this side of the tooth or just straight down, and understand that like when you use this tip, you can use you could carve like this essentially. You could carve like this. You can carve like this. You can carve like this if you wanted to. You know, there's a lot of different things that go on with the bar, with the chain, with the saw. So your one thing you want to do when you first get started, since we're just talking saws today and safety gear, get to know the bar, get to know the chain, get to know what it's like when you're cutting. So you're not scared. Don't be scared of it. You know, if you have a brand new saw, a brand new chain, it's going to cut good. It's going to be a little bit slower, you know, like not a little bit slower, but if your rakers aren't, that's a whole different thing. It's going to be sharp enough for you to just cut and get to know your saw. So have fun with it. And then, you know, make some cuts. Try some things. Try cutting this way and pulling. Try cutting this way and pulling. Because it's like that's what we do. We are moving and grooving. And I'm using this side to carve fur here. And I'm like tap, 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 tap. And then I do the shoulder over here. And I'm like tap, 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 tap. And I'll carve with different parts of the tips to get different parts of what I want. I'll also use carving like this. I hold it like this. If I use a lot of this as my holding. Sometimes I rest it on my belly. I drink a lot of beer. That's why it's perfect here. And I'm a donkey. And then I'll shave it, you know, like I'll use it like this as I'm scraping away. I'm not just like cutting like rah rah rah. Like a lot of times I'm using the chain at like a medium speed, not a full speed. You don't want to run these things at full speed, especially with these bars. You never need to be full out. Like it's just not needed. Okay? Honestly, like I'm using mine like very rarely am I maxing it out. I'm mostly using my saw half throttle and using it to scrape, using it to do whatever I want it to do. Texture, everything and anything. Here, like just for instance, you look at like something like this. Here's the tree, right? You can see these lines. This is from me running it down on this side. Boom. And then switching, holding the saw like this and pulling it down this way. Using the pressure of the bar. You see that angle? I'm using that angle and that tip up to pull down. So when I say get to know the saw, that's what I mean. Like get to know the cuts. You don't have to just take a big log, plunge in, and use this part of your chain to make your cut. No, like use your tip. You can do this, of course, if you're blocking, but when you're doing your detail, your tip is your pencil is your the way to sculpt, the way to craft your piece. So I'm always thinking about getting to know the different ways at which my saw is going to be able to, you know, move for me. I'm going to be able to cut it this way. I actually hold my saw a lot of times, which is people think is weird, but I hold it like this because I find for me sometimes I can control it like this a little bit better, and I hold it like that, which is different. And you will find ways that work for you. Maybe your arm is like stronger here, so this is where you want your weight, and you're holding it, and this is just like a balance beam for you, or like, you know, however you want to use your saw. Get to know the saw. That is the most important part about beginning chainsaw carving, is just exploring. Get a piece of wood, cut it up, make some textures, just get a cheap round of firewood or whatever. Cut it into some shapes. Get to know what it feels like to do an S curve. You know, like what it's like when you start cutting and then change your direction and then you start to feel this. Now, oh, that's a good point. Everybody asks me why my chain is so loose. Now, loose chain is a loose chain is from uh sorry, my wife just texted me. The reason I run my chain so loose is because I run it at a very fast. I run these fast, I run these hot, and I run these for a long time. You might not be doing that right away. So I do it because when I'm cutting and I want to make a turn, if I'm turning, this actually will bend and flex with it. And then also the chain speed is not super tight. If it's really tight, like if you have your bar and chain really tight, it's going to blow out this tip. So I would suggest that you could see like this. Like that's a good for you. Like this is a bit extreme, but I know what I'm doing. You can do that, but a lot of carvers don't also agree with maybe that. But for me, I think your teeth should be, you should see your drivers, which is this. You should be able to see your drivers here, like right there. That's what I would suggest for you because you don't want to blow out the tip. Now, what else did I do? Wow, there's lots of information in this video, especially for saws. I think that Echo is going to be one of your is a great saw. I know you can go still, you can go Husqvarna, you know, whatever. You can. You pay more money, go for it. Some people swear by those saws. Still doesn't support chainsaw carving. Don't care. I got no time for still. And Husky, great saws, nice people, no problem. I find they're just too loud for me. I really, really believe in Echo. They have supported chainsaw carving. They supported a cut above right there when no other company would. They provided all the saws. So did they also did it for Carver Kings, Timber Kings, and so yeah. I mean, I'm on board with it. They're good saws. They're cheaper, and they last a long time. I've had this saw for like 10 years. I don't use this saw anymore. I'm actually giving this to my brother. That's why it's set up without a carving bar. But I've used it. I've had it for 10 years. It's a great saw. He's going to use it for trail riding and making and hunting. So, like, that's the perfect saw. He leaves it out in the forest for I don't know, weeks and weeks on end, months on end. Comes back, he'll fire it up. Hopefully, you got a little primer here. Prime it up. It'd be a great example if this thing just fired up. 10 years later, still a great saw and much cheaper. So, and in this day and age with inflation, you know what I'm saying? As we progress more into part two, we're going to go into blocking. We're going to go into making form. We're going to talk about, we're going to use the saw. I'm going to show you how you use the saw, but I want you to go out there and try it yourself. Make sure you wear your safety gear. Make sure that if you don't have a jaw horse or something, you nail in your piece of wood so it's secure with whatever you're going to carve. Make sure it's safe. Safety first. That's what I always think, especially if you're new. I mean, I genuinely think that I am a bad example of safety, but I've been carving 13 years full time with nothing else but a saw in my hands. So I am comfortable with what I am doing. But if you're just getting started, you want to have fun. You want to get to know your saw. Hopefully you can come back to this video, like get a saw, get the sprocket, get the chain, then come back and then start it up. Go over what I talked about with how to move, how to cut, how to make yourself get familiar. That's what it's really about. And then you can try, if you got the gumption and you got the drive, go out, get yourself going and try to block something out. Try to make it. Just imagine what it's like and do that. Draw it out, cut out away what's not supposed to be there, and then make it. It's that easy. No, it's not. Well, it is essentially, but we're going to go through this whole process. So if you're just getting started, get yourself the right saw. If you don't have enough for a carving bar, just be very aware that a 3/8 chain or a 3/25 chain is going to be a stock saw. It's a different chain than this, which is a smaller. This is 050 carving chain, and it's much smaller than your 3/8 chain. So it kicks back. Just remember, like, be aware when you're cutting that you want to cut, make sure that you're cutting in here. This is your pencil down here. Up here, it's going to run and jump. Down here is where your pencil and your detail is going to be, but you're going to have to be very careful. Much different for carving. You know, like you have to be a lot more aware for safety, and it's a little more sketchy. But it's good for blocking. This saw does serve a purpose. I have 56-inch bars. I've got 48-inch bars that I use for my big logs, you know, even that steel that you saw earlier. I use those bars, but for blocking. And we will talk about blocking later. So hopefully this has been a good, informative, how to chainsaw carve for beginners. What to do. Part 1, the chainsaw and the safety gear. Get yourself some steel toe boots. Get yourself some chaps. If you need gloves, get gloves. Get safety protection. Get some headphones for some tunes, because I just think it's way better to rock out and listen to tunes. Or if you're not into that, just get a good pair of earmuffs. I love the Fanner ones. You pay more, but they just are so much better. And then from there, you know, a nice block of wood or a jaw horse is always good. We'll talk about that stuff. We're going to talk about tools as we go. We'll just do a carving next time, and we're just going to go in video section we're going to start at blocking. So this is it. Right now, don't even think about it. Just go grab your saw, get a chunk of wood, start cutting. Start getting to know what it's like when it turns. Don't just cut straight down. You're not making lines anymore. You don't cut straight. People ask you what's the hardest thing, or people ask me what's the hardest thing to carve. A straight line, a circle, a box. Those are the hardest things to carve, in my opinion. And then you move into human form. Why? Because they are straight, they are perfect, and your eye is trained for that. A bear, you can carve anything. You can do a bear, no one's going to know what a bear looks like. You know what I'm saying? Because they're literally going, oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. They don't have the skull of an elk to go, this is what an elk skull looks like. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the measurements. You can just carve an elk that looks like it. But if you really want to get detailed and crazy, you can get detailed and crazy. But just get to know your saw. Have fun. Welcome to chainsaw carving. Get yourself out there. Get out. Have fun. Come back. We're going to do another video next week on how to block and the tricks that I use when I'm blocking. So what am I thinking about? What am I going to do? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? So tune in next week. We're going to move into that. Thank you so much. Ryan Cook, Saw Valley. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you're here at the end, thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody who subscribes and joins me on this adventure. All right, guys, later. You! Welcome to carving.